Yeah.
All right, good evening, everybody. This is the annual general meeting of the Institute for 2020-2021. I'm Andrew Waltho, the current president, for those of you who don't know me. On the agenda, the first item of business is calling for apologies and proxies.
I have none.
We have none. And we have the minutes of the 2020 annual general meeting tabled here in the room.
And published online.
And published online. On the AIG website, they're able to be referenced by members.
From the last meeting.
Yeah. I guess it's a little bit one way to ask the
Exactly, yeah. If there's any questions, put it on Q&A.
Yeah, if there's any questions about the meeting, the minutes from the last meeting, please put it on the question and answer facility on Zoom, and we'll come back to it. In terms of the President's report for the past year, there's a copy of the report, written report, available. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Available on the AIG website. But I'd just like to go through a number of bullet points under some very broad headings, describing what's happened with the Institute in the last 12 months. With everything that's happened in the last 12 months, it almost came as a surprise to us a couple of months ago that it's actually AIG's 40th anniversary. The 40th anniversary of the Institute takes place in late October, and that will actually coincide quite nicely with the AEGC 2021 being held here in Brisbane by AIG in collaboration with ASEG and PISA. So hopefully by then we'll have a really good opportunity to celebrate what has been, I think, a very solid period of development for the Institute. Needless to say, the last year has been really challenging. With all of the restrictions around COVID-19 that COVID-19 imposed on meetings and conferences and seminars, going right back to affecting meetings like this and the one that's just preceded the AGM, where until very recently we haven't been able to get together face to face in the one place and have the informal networking that goes along with the technical talk. So it's really gratifying to see how well the state branches have responded to that challenge through the type of meeting we've just seen, and that response has actually been so successful that I think it's going to become a permanent part of the events calendar, where we'll have going forward, we'll have a mixture of online meetings and face-to-face meetings. The advantage of the online meetings is it's just so much more accessible by members generally, particularly these days now, where our overseas members are the second biggest cohort in the Institute. In terms of membership, we actually grew by 250 members in the past 12 months. So we're at 3173 members at the moment, including 103 students. It's really good to see membership growth occurring over that period. And much of the underpinning of that membership growth has come from members retaining membership, not turning over at the end of the financial year, as well as new members coming in. It's really surprising that we've now got members in 80 countries spread right across the world. In terms of categories, members are by far the dominant group. Quite a few graduate members who are converting now regularly to full members after gaining the requisite experience subsequent to graduation, and a steadily growing number of associate members, even though that cohort's very small at the moment. And in terms of membership by region, we can see on the pie chart that that used to show that we were basically 50% Western Australia, 50% eastern, spread across the eastern states of Australia. And that's shifted now with this very large cohort, or growing cohort of members overseas. The big change which happened in membership this year has been the introduction of additional education requirements for members. Because of changes to geoscience courses at a number of universities across Australia now, we've introduced a requirement for members to have, in their degrees, to have coverage of a requisite number of core subjects. And so the intention of that approach is to distinguish geology and geoscience from more generalised earth science and earth and environmental science teaching that, learning that students are getting now at some universities, which is, in effect, it's creating a two-tier system of geological education in Australia, which I don't think the full implications of that have sunk in yet. But what we're looking to do is not exclude those students from membership, but encourage them to take up associate membership and then provide a pathway to full membership through the associate members undertaking additional learning, either through university studies or through a process of gaining micro accreditations from other providers, which we're keen to work with those providers to develop and to ensure the quality of the training that they're offering. During last year, the Institute joined the Australian Council of Professions. So ACOP is a peak body with of groups that represent 930,000 professionals across a wide range of industries and professions in Australia. So engineers, healthcare professionals, computer scientists, vets, accountants, and we've added to the mix by bringing in geoscientists. And the staggering outcome of that initially has been just how common the problems that geoscience is facing are across all of those other professions. So we're not alone, and there's much to be gained by sharing experiences and ideas with those other groups. The main focus of ACOP is in three areas. It's education and accreditation, professionalism and ethics, and diversity and inclusion, which are all hot topics facing geoscience in Australia. We've maintained a very strong financial position despite reduced revenue. During COVID-19, the Treasurer's report will spell that out in detail. the value of that strong position was demonstrated during 2020, where we had to call on specialist legal assistance with a couple of very complex and difficult ethics and standards cases. It demonstrated, we've always worked on the basis, or for many years, we've worked on the basis of having sufficient funds in reserve to run the Institute without income for about 3 years. But that reserve really, it's the first time we've really had to call on it in any sort of significant way for very good reason. It's fair to say that with growth in membership and growth in the diversity of professional fields in which members work and the demands that places back on the Institute, AIG's could be seen to be at a fairly critical point in its development. In response to that, the board undertook a deep review of the Institute governance and requirements to support future growth in the last year. And there's a number of quite detailed and strong recommendations that have come out from that we'll be working through to implement to the benefit of the Institute as a whole and its members over the next year or two. Much more to say about that as things come along. On professional standards, we had a year of almost no complaints. As I mentioned, there were 2 major ethics and standards issues relating to Valmin Code compliance in M&A work undertaken by members. The members were found to have acted professionally and competently in compliance with the Valmin Code and all other requirements pertaining to the work they are engaged in, and both complaints were dismissed. We've had concern expressed by ASIC that we're not receiving enough complaints in relation to work by members as competent persons in compliance with JORC. So in response to that, we've launched a program of proactively assessing ASX announcements at random, only a small number, but a steady number of announcements each day, just to see how compliance is being demonstrated and to assess the validity of that concern expressed by the regulator. There's also a significant update to the JORC code underway, and gathering momentum. It's the first time the code's been updated since 2012. The initial public consultation process was completed recently. It attracted a number of very considered and detailed responses that are now being considered by the JORC committee. One of the areas that will receive particular attention from AIG and working in collaboration with AusINM is a desire for competent persons to have to demonstrate why they claim competence in particular commodities and activities, or how they can claim competence in particular commodities and activities. That additional layer of transparency is being sought by both ASIC and the ASX in the feedback coming out of the initial consultation process for the JORC update. And how we tackle that is something that the 2 parent bodies will be working on together over the next few months. That process has just got underway. So very early days, and we'll be keeping members up to date with how that work progresses. I mentioned before that the state branches have really done an excellent job of keeping members engaged and providing professional development opportunities during the past year under some very difficult circumstances. I think some branches have really mastered the use of webinar technology and reaching out to members And I mentioned too the benefits, which were initially unexpected, of just members in remote areas and overseas being able to dial into meetings and hear some good technical presentations they wouldn't have otherwise had the ability to access. We've also had extremely positive feedback from the JORC training course developed for AIG by De-risk Geomining here in Brisbane. It's been presented 4 times now, no? Always to good numbers of participants and very positive feedback that's contributing to the improvement and shaping of that course going forward. So, you know, it's really part of what I hope will be a growing range of targeted development opportunities for members covering a range of topics that we develop gradually over time and maintain over time, more importantly. They have to be relevant to be beneficial. The mentoring programs, since its introduction, has been a great success. It too, despite difficulties in mentees and mentors getting together because of COVID, was extremely successful last year. And the coordinators of the mentoring program in each state really deserve sincere commendation for the effort they've put into ensuring its success. We've continued strong support for in-service high school teacher training across Australia. There are 3 groups now that we sponsor financially, engaged in that activity across the country. And we're also supporting a group, the Core Learning Foundation in Western Australia, that actually gets out there and exposes students in the classroom to geology in a way that they're often not getting from the teaching staff at their school. Not through any desire to avoid geology, but just I think some reservations about teaching subjects that teachers often don't have sufficient knowledge and exposure to. The issue of curricula at universities is a real concern. We're in a situation now in Australia where something between 1/3 and 1/2 of Australian universities have moved to providing broad applied earth science or earth and environmental science degrees rather than degrees focused on geology or geoscience. We're facing a situation where low student numbers are sparking concerns in industry about the availability of graduates going forward and how we're going to sustain a pool of talent in Australia in that environment. And that issue is really will really need to be a focus of attention over the next several years. It's not something that's going to be solved overnight. So it'll require a committed effort working with the education sector and also working with the other ACOP member societies. As I mentioned this is one of the issues that's not just particular to geoscience. It's a live issue in many engineering fields as well. So in terms of challenges for the current year, just to highlight, attracting high quality students to geoscience courses and careers is a major priority. We suffer from a lack of exposure to geology by students before entering university. And there's a perception as well that geoscience is an old world profession, no longer relevant to society, which as soon as we get people engaged in geoscience is dispelled almost immediately. But that doesn't happen until the students in the bag. Part of resolving that situation is building public trust in geosciences and geosciences, and highlighting the relevance of geosciences to society, not just in the resource industries, but in many other aspects of society as well. Inclusion and diversity is a major issue. And when I'm talking about diversity, I'm not just talking about gender. It involves a whole range of issues. There seems to be a view in some sectors of industry that there's a quick fix by simply fast-tracking different groups of people through the ranks. But really, it's an issue for which there's no short-term solutions, and it's going to require a consistent and long-term effort to reach satisfactory results. And finally, AIG needs to continue to evolve and adapt to remain a dynamic and responsive professional institute, delivering value to members because it has a clear and well understood purpose, which guides our actions in every aspect of what we do. So just to say, it's really appropriate just to say thanks to my fellow directors over the past year. The support and the work that's put in behind the scenes, very often without a lot of visibility, makes a huge difference to how the Institute operates. State branches and board committee volunteers have continued to do a fantastic job helping to maintain professional standards, especially in the areas of membership, dealing with complaints, and managing what can be very difficult ethics and standards issues. Again, frequently working below the radar in many cases. I have to mention Lynn Vigar, who's AIG's executive officer. Lynn works part-time supporting the board and keeps us honest and moving in the right direction, and prompting us when we forget things, especially me. And finally, I have to note, Jocelyn Thompson will be well known to many branch members in Western Australia. She's worked recently, up until just the past few days, as West Australia's branch committee support coordinator. Jocelyn's been involved with AIG for 36 years. So she's finally opted to retire, and we wish her well for her future going forward. Fantastic job over the years, and real commitment to the Institute. And finally, between 20th of April and 10th of May, we conducted an online election for the board vacancies. We had 8 candidates for 7 positions, and I'm pleased to announce that Leah Moore, Dale Sims, Doug Menzies, Josh Lee, Rod Carlson and Mark Derryman, as well as myself, will be continuing or becoming directors of the Institute for the next 2 years. And with that, I'm happy to take questions, which I'll need some technical assistance with.
You're not the only one.
Yeah.
All right. Are you there, Peter?
I are.
You are. That's great.
are.
Okay, let me see if I can get us back up online. Yeah. Where are we? Here we are.
There's a hotel, I think.
Okay. So are there any questions online?
There are none at the moment.
Okay. Shall we continue on to the Treasurer's report?
There is a copy of the President's report. If it's not online now, it will be by the end of the meeting. And you know, if anyone has any questions after thinking about the presentation and reading that, please get in touch.
Okay. Thanks. All right, just very quickly to run through the Treasurer's report. Thanks, Andrew. The financial year ending 31st of December 2020, the AIG remains in a strong financial position with the assets of the Institute growing from 1.81 million to 1.84 million, a surplus of just over 200,000 for the year. The surplus is largely due to the significant income received in the year from the 2019 AEGC conference in Perth, which totalled $118,000. The accounts show that both income and costs were significantly lower than 2019 due to the lack of AIG-sponsored events because of COVID. The large South Australian exploration and mining conference, the SAEMC, had to be cancelled in November 2020 at the last minute, and the AEGC conference in Brisbane was postponed until 2021. So the local professional development programs were also severely limited, cancelled or moved online. The AIG is one of the three bodies that make up the JORC Committee. The JORC Committee requested additional funding from the AIG in 2021 to assist with the implementation of the update of the JORC Code. An initial payment of $75,000 was made early in 2021. During 2020, exceptional costs have stemmed from requirements to engage lawyers to assist with ethics complaints made against AIG members during which required complex legal responses. There's also been an increased recognition of the need for additional funding supplied by the AIG to educational programs such as TCEP and the AIG bursaries. And this is a board response to try to stem decreasing student numbers and consequent staffing levels at universities offering geoscience courses around Australia. The AIG annual account statement has been audited by Tinworth and Company, Chartered Accountants, who are satisfied that there are a suitable record for the AIG financial position. The AIG board considers that the accounts are a true and fair record of the AIG financial position, and the board considers that there are unlikely to be any financial circumstances that would have adverse effect on the AIG financial position in 2021. So that's my statement. That will also be online very shortly after this meeting. Are there any questions relating to the financial statements? All right, we probably just need to make sure that the 2020 AGM minutes were suggested. I put forward that they are accepted. If there are any objections, please raise your hand, let us know. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen. Are there any recent hands there, Peter?
None.
Okay, good. Jocelyn is a legend. Okay, yes, we quite believe Jocelyn is a legend. We know that. And if anybody has a question, raise your hand. So there's also the, we need to put forward that the President's report is accepted. We just do it by exception, and the Treasurer's report needs to be accepted. All right, are there any other issues?
Dealt with the election of directors.
So the election of directors has been announced.
Any other business?
Is there any other business from anybody who'd like to raise their hand or speak in the meeting? Okay, any questions online?
Nothing online. Oh, hang on, there was a James Walker's, I moved the President's report. The Treasury
Thank you, James.
accepted.
Nice to see you online. Good on you, mate. Okay, Andrew, anything else? No, with that, I would like to close the AGM. Thank everybody for their participation and for the local people to have eaten all the food that's here in the pub. If you guys who aren't in the pub miss out, I'm terribly sorry.
We have a question from Lynn.
Yes, Lynn, have the auditors been accepted? Ah, yes, that was the one more question we missed. Yes, the auditor, I put forward that proposed that Tinworth and Company are the auditors for the financial position in 2021. Any objections? Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for reminding me, Lynn.
Great example of him keeping us honest.
Yeah, keeping us honest as usual, Lynn. Thank you so much. All right, with that, we'll close the meeting and say thank you very much for everybody who's stayed to attend. I appreciate it.